You ready? Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Newton Planning Board public meeting for Tuesday, August 10th. The first thing I'll do is I'll put in Mr. Marchand as a voting member in the place of Mr. White. So,
Did you click join with audio?
Yeah.
okay, and the first thing on the agenda tonight is a public
Can you
hearing.
hear me?
Yes.
Take my.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Annie, we can hear you.
Thank you.
Okay. Public hearing on the adoption of the new introduction, vision, and government and facilities chapters of the Newton Master Plan. Hopefully you've been able to review the documents. They've been available at the town's website and at the town hall. So right off the bat, I'll open it up. Is there any input from the public on those 4 chapters tonight? Okay, hearing 1. Okay.
I'll speak first.
And for everybody for tonight, whenever you are going to speak and approach the podium, please state your name for the record.
Okay, I'm Roger Hamill, and first of all, I'd like to congratulate the Master Plan Steering Committee for doing a great job.
Annie right there.
But a couple of things. One is the handouts that were provided. It appears to be those are the new revisions. The document on the website does not have the changes that were made after the meeting you had a month ago.
Okay.
There were a couple of small changes that were suggested at that meeting. Those are not reflected in the document on the website, but they were in the document that Mr. Doggy gave me yesterday.
Okay.
And I have one other thing. On the very last page of the, what is it called, Government and Functions section. The Town Government and Facilities section, the very last page, the very last paragraph about the zoning board. And it says that there are 5 elected members. The members of the zoning board are appointed, they're not elected.
We missed that.
And also, it says that there are 2 alternates. Actually, there can be up to 5 alternates.
Okay. Annie, are you, Ms. Colley, are you getting those?
I am. I've got those notes made. Thank you.
Okay.
And other than that, they did a great job.
Okay. Thank you. Any further comments, questions? Okay, I have a question I'm going to run by Jen because the updated language was not on the website. However, it was available at the town hall in the handouts. Can we close this, or do we need to?
I think you could. I think for the spirit and intent of it, though, maybe continuing the public hearing for the master plan to your next meeting, just to give people the opportunity.
Okay.
That'd be my suggestion.
That's what my first thought was. Did you hear that, Ms. Collier?
I didn't. Were you saying the spirit would be to postpone a vote?
Yes, continue this hearing until the next planning board meeting in 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then
Then what I will do is I'll make those changes that Roger pointed out and ask Jim to put the, newest, most frequent version up, and then we can do it the next time.
perfect. So
Great.
could I have a motion to continue this public hearing?
I'll make a motion to continue this public hearing
Next meeting.
till the next meeting.
Okay, since we have people on Zoom, we have to do a roll call by name. So Jim, if you could call the roll, please.
Ms. Collier,
Aye.
Ms. White,
Aye.
Did you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Marchand?
Aye.
Mr. Lavoy?
Aye.
Mr. Andrews?
Aye.
Mr. Moran?
Aye.
That is unanimous.
Okay, thank you.
And my apologies, I will look and see if I got the wrong copy up there.
So that public hearing is continued. Thank you for your patience. And agenda item number 2, 125 Development, New Hampshire Corp. of Plastow, New Hampshire, Mass. Request a public hearing for a 4-lot subdivision off Puzzle Lane in Newton, New Hampshire. The property referenced as tax map 14, block 1, lot 273. And the way I'm gonna run this is I'd like to go to Jen first and address the completeness of the application. And then, once we have that, then we'll move forward from there.
Sure. So, did you want to start with the applicant, going through the application though, before you go to me?
No, I'd like
Okay.
we've already got the application
Okay.
and all the paperwork, and then if it's, if we deem that it's not complete, then we'll ask for input.
Okay. So this is a 4-lot subdivision that the planning board had actually conditionally approved back in September 2020. Those conditions expired without the conditions being met. So it's effectively the same application that you're seeing again. My letter that you received today, my review letter that was also sent to the applicant, did state that I thought there were a few items that were missing, so that they either needed to provide that information. It was a high-intensity soil survey and also some test pits for some of the lots. They've actually subsequently, a few hours ago, did provide waiver requests for both of those items. I do think they are reasonable waiver requests, but with the submittal of those waivers, I do think it's a complete application. I do think there are some other items that we need to discuss, but I do think it is complete for jurisdiction.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board on the completeness of the application? Okay. Since we consider the application complete, can I have a motion to accept jurisdiction?
This is Annie, I move to accept jurisdiction.
This is Barbara, I'll second.
Okay. I'll go with Annie and Barbara.
That's what I went with.
Okay. Any further discussion? And Jim, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Andrews?
Aye.
Mr. Lavoy?
Aye.
Ms. Collier?
Aye.
Mr. Moran? Ms. White?
Aye.
Mr. Marchand?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Okay. I don't want to rush you. I know you get a lot of typing and writing to do. Okay, so we passed that step. So, sir, I'll hand it over to you. And again, please state your name. And
Absolutely. Good evening. My name is Barry Geyer. I'm with Jones and Beach Engineers here for the applicant. The project is map 14, block 1, lot 27-3 off of Puzzle Lane. It's 164 plus acres in the light industrial commercial zone with portions in the aquifer district and the shoreline protection zone. As stated, the project is located at the end of Puzzle Lane. Currently has 2 existing buildings on a private drive. You can actually see the outline of the building here in purple. There are 2 buildings located at the end of Puzzle Drive. Property has frontage on both Puzzle Lane and Route 108, sorry. And the remainder of the property on the west side of the project is currently undeveloped. The intent is to subdivide the 164-acre parcel into 4 lots. 3 of the proposed lots to be located at the end of Puzzle Lane, with the 4th lot to be the remainder of the parcel or on the west side of the project. So on sheet C3, you can see the outline of the entire project is in purple and the lot lines are in green. This will provide the existing buildings with their own lot and allow future development of the remainder. Access to the lots on, access to lots is on a private drive off of Puzzle Lane with a 40-foot access easement. A roadway maintenance agreement for the private drive was submitted as part of the application package. All lots will be served by on-site well and septics, and actually lots 25, or proposed lots 27-5 and 27-6 have existing wells and septics currently. 4 variances were previously granted by the zoning board for this project. One was for the creation of lot 27-3 with less than the required frontage. Second one is for the creation of lots 27-5 and 27-6 with no frontage. Third is the reduction of the required setback on lot 27-5 to less than 50 feet. And the fourth was the creation of lot 27-7 with no frontage and under 5 acres. As Ms. Rowden expressed, we are requesting 2 waivers. We did submit those via email, but I also have paper copies for the board if you would like. Pass that on.
Thank you.
So the 2 waivers requested are for the subdivision regulations, section 8.1.5K, requiring a high-intensity soil survey for the property. And the second one is for section 8.1.6C of the subdivision regulations, requiring test pits for all the proposed lots. Before we go into the waivers, a little history, I think Jen already went into it, was this project was conditionally approved September 22nd, 2020. It had 6 conditions. Unfortunately, the time frame on the approval expired prior to the applicant meeting all those conditions. Therefore, we're back in front of you tonight. We have received the comment letter from the town planner. We have no issue in addressing the conditions of approval as suggested. So at this time, I would take any questions, or we can go through the waiver request, whichever you'd like.
For now, I'd like to hand it over to Jennifer from RPC for the rest of your comments on it.
Sure. So you do need to take care of the waiver request, but as I already stated, I think that they're reasonable given the proposal. My biggest concern is that approval from Plastow. This had been one of the conditions in the last time you guys saw this application. There is a note on this current plan set that effectively speaks to stating that no approval from Plastow is necessary. Under state law, if you can't meet the frontage of a subdivision, you can treat a municipal boundary as a subdivision line, as a lot line. You can do that. But for a subdivision, if some part of the change to that lot, you would have to rely on the land in another town. In this case, Plastow's land is requiring its frontage be accessed from in Newton. My understanding from the law, and I am not an attorney, is that they still require relief from Plastow. Plastow may decide that they don't have any need to review this. That is their purview. Newton has to inform Plastow of this application. Plastow gets to make the determination of whether an approval is needed in their town. They may decide that they have no concern because in reality, we're just talking about lines on the ground at this juncture. They may decide they do not require an approval process. I've spoken with their town planner at a few different points. I've heard they might need a minor lot line adjustment. I've heard they don't need anything. So my suggestion is that a condition of any approval be that you either hear from Plastow that no approval is necessary, and they can do that in writing, or that they do require an approval process, and if it does need to go to their planning board, then their signature block needs to be on the plan set as a condition. Either one would satisfy hearing from Plastow that they have seen this application and are all right with the situation. So that's my suggested remedy for that, and I would also suggest removing that note. It's on the cover page and on a subsequent page, removing that from the plan set.
I actually spoke with the planner, and that was his note that we should add. So that's why it's on the plans. I understand we can get a letter or whatever is required from them to make sure to affirm that that's the case, that they don't require approval, but we don't have any issue with that.
Okay, because this seems to be one that was hanging out a long time when we went through this last time, and I'm not sure what the holdup was, but it sounds like a fairly simple process if the
Yeah.
applicant so chooses to address this issue.
Like I said, I talked to the planner. He indicated that this is the note I want you to add to the plan. But if we require a letter from the planning department or the planning board, then we can, I've actually requested that, just haven't received it yet. So if that's the case, then we'll do that. If they require us to go to the board, then we'll go to the board.
Okay, so we need one of those two things. then.
Correct.
For Jen, that note, even with the letter from Plastow, I don't like the idea of this note on here, and I think that's,
I still recommend taking the note off.
Yes.
I think a condition just stating approval from Plastow or confirmation that no approval is necessary, I think gets to the same end, and I think is
and that
much
could be,
cleaner.
that could be what the note says.
Yes, the note
Okay.
could say that, or the conditions of approval, that could be
Okay.
a condition.
All right.
Yeah, that
Because
works.
this is kind of, that note essentially sidesteps Newton's zoning.
Understood.
Can't do that, okay? All right.
Going on, just a few suggestions of any approval of this application, that any waivers or variances be listed. I will note the application that was submitted does incorrectly state that they did not receive the variance to create lot 27-7. It was approved on appeal back on May 11th, 2020. I know Jim is looking for the documentation to be able to provide the applicant. I think Barry has already requested that. The variance to create the lot with no frontage was approved on appeal. The variances to build some buildings that were part of a subsequent site plan application, those were denied. I don't know the appeal status of that at this time beyond that, but those were denied. The lot creation was approved. So that is a slight change. So I do suggest any of the waivers and variances be listed on any of the recorded pages. Original stamps and signatures of all professionals who appear on the plan set. I know some are on what was submitted. A few more should be updated. Specifically, I think it was the wetlands one that I had noted, and also the land surveyor. All the bounds should be set. The liability waiver be in place prior to any recording. That's relieving the town of any liability with the road maintenance and access for emergency purposes. And then finally, a recordable Mylar.
Okay. I was searching myself for that approval, and I could not find it referenced in the minutes of the ZBA, or I could not find a notice of a decision. I did find on the ZBA minutes subsequent to this with the application for a building that was denied, it was stated very clearly in the minutes that that was to be a non-buildable lot pretty much in perpetuity. So we may want to look at the ability to have something stated on this plan that we're not going to just come back here in 5 years and 10 years to try to get around what the ZBA did at that time. I'm not sure what we can do with that.
Effectively, lot 27-7, the way it's proposed on this subdivision and with its relief it's gotten from the ZBA, the only way to build upon that lot right now is for either Newton's regulations to change to allow it to be buildable, or for them to seek zoning relief through the ZBA.
Which they've already done, and the current ZBA said, don't come back on this again.
But they did for their application, yes.
But I think the applicant has in I think it's 3 years, they can reapply.
That is correct.
So, yeah. We just want to make sure that, in the future that it isn't precluded, even, we don't want to limit their rights to do, to go back.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Is that it, Jen?
Yep.
Now, from the board standpoint, I can either go on to the waivers, or we can open up the public hearing section of it.
I would do the waivers first, but
Okay.
you need to have public hearings for each waiver request as well.
This is Annie. I move that we accept the two waiver requests.
Okay, I would like to have a little discussion on that.
We need a
Fire.
second first, don't we?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and now for discussion. The first one is a waiver for the high-intensity soil survey, and for the public's benefit, when we grant a waiver, it has to meet certain qualifications. Would you like to address, instead of me just reading these,
Absolutely.
the waiver requirements?
Yeah, so we are requesting a waiver from the requirement for a high-intensity soil survey. The proposed subdivision has 2 lots that are greater than 5, and one of the lots is 150 acres in size, and lot 27-9 is greater than 2.9 acres and has test pits completed. The intent of the HIS requirement is to make sure that there's available suitable soils for septic installation. Obviously, 2 of the lots already have a septic that is approved by the town and the state. One of the lots is over 150 acres, and lot 27-7 is over 2.5 acres and includes test pits. So we believe that granting the waiver will not be detrimental to the public safety, health, or welfare. We also believe that the waiver will not vary the provisions of the Newton zoning ordinance, master plan, or official maps. And that such a waiver will substantially secure the objectives, standards, and requirements of these regulations, as there is sufficient area to install the septics for these lots. It meets the requirements, or meets the intent of the regulation. Requiring the applicant to complete a HIS is unnecessary hardship in this case. We are talking 2 lots already have septic systems on them. The other one is, or one of the other ones is over 150 acres. So we believe that granting the waiver would meet the spirit and intent of the ordinance.
Refresh my memory, because this is prior to my being on the board. How were these lots, we have multiple buildings, like, okay, the proposed lots, which we are talking about here, right now it's just one lot, and we have multiple buildings on this lot. How was that initially set out? Meaning, if it was houses, you can only have one house per lot. Granted, this is industrial park, so how were the individual buildings initially?
They would have had to have site plan approval.
Yeah. I believe one was built after the other, but that predates my
Okay,
working with Newton.
that was part of the original site plan approval.
Yeah.
Okay, that was just a clarification for me, thank you. What I would like to do, and Annie, I'd like you to I'd like to vote on these as 2 separate ones. I don't particularly like.
Okay.
So if you could just amend that.
Okay, let's amend it for the first waiver request.
The high-intensity soil.
Move to
survey.
approve.
Okay. You,
And it was,
That's
I
good.
second that.
okay. I'd like to open up for board discussion on this, if there is any. Particularly from the engineers and.
Can you explain the unnecessary hardship in more detail?
Well, two of the lots already have septic systems on them, so there's no reason to prove that they have area for septics. The lot, I can't remember the number, 27.3, the remainder is over 150 acres, so there's really no chance, and we've scattered that with test pits as well, so there's really no chance that we were unable to find a place for a septic system. 27.7, we show the 2 test pits, a 4K area, and suitable soil, or it has suitable soil. So it's really a hardship to have to go out there and complete a HIS mapping for those areas. I believe future development of the lot 27-3, the large lot, will require it. We have done test pits on it. We know what's out there and that it's suitable. We have suitable areas, so, but that'll be a different application.
Okay, so it's a cost implication. It's
Absolutely.
Jim, I can't tell if anybody on Zoom is raising their hand, so that's why I wanted my screen working, but, no?
And in your opinion, you know, I'm looking at the, sorry, bring that back on this. Even though a significant amount of wetland resources in the area, that there is or will be adequate area for a proposed septic?
Absolutely.
Is the new septic going to be larger in size in comparison to the existing ones that are there?
We're not proposing any buildings at this time, so we don't have septics proposed at this time.
Got it.
Well, that was my question. If you plan on, or even anticipate possibly building there in the future, is the room capable to use and maintain those septics that are already in place? Or are you gonna have to enlarge or do a new septic?
So the two lots that currently have a septic system, let's see if I can find the right page for it. We don't intend to enlarge those. And if we do, they'll have to require a site plan that comes back. So you will see that again. But we do, so those are, we're breaking off the two buildings. The two buildings that are, the lot lines of the two buildings are located.
You can't be heard unless you speak in the microphone.
Sorry. So, the two existing buildings have septic systems on them, and they're separated with lots, so they won't be enlarged because the septics are already sized to meet those requirements. I mean, I think, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
For the future development, we'll have to come back in, you know, and show site plans, subdivision, anything in the future.
So just for a clarification, the application's for 4 lots. One's very big, that has some test pits so far, but that most likely will have septic, but that's gonna be a whole nother process. The 2 buildable lots already have buildings on them and have septic systems designed for that size.
Absolutely.
And then the little lot, which at this time is not buildable, just has test pits.
Correct.
And we'll have to go through the process if and when
If and when.
at a future.
And
Okay.
those test pits indicate that you have
That we
adequate
have suitable
soils
soil.
on site
Correct.
to sustain a septic system. Okay.
Okay, I'd like to open up for comments from the public. Please keep this just pertaining to this one waiver. We will have public comment time for each step of the way. But if there are any public comments for this particular waiver, now would be the time.
Peggy Connors. I just have a question. There must be something different between, this is not just a perk that they want to do for this lot. Could someone explain what the difference is between the fact that it doesn't seem logical to me that you have a lot and they want to do something about finding out whether it has a septic system, and someday you're going to use it, but right now you want us to say that you don't have to test it. So that piece is a little muddled, I think.
Okay, are you talking about, so that would apply essentially to the unbuildable lot at this time?
No, the unbuildable lot, to me, that's
Okay.
a done deal. It's the other one.
The 150-acre lot?
He said that it makes a hardship in order to do this test. Well, they must be talking about something other than a perk test, and I don't think the general
Oh,
public
they are,
understands
yes. The
that.
waiver is for a high-intensity soil survey, which I'll let somebody who's not the chair explain.
Sure, throw me on the spot. It's a detailed soil survey of the existing conditions on the entire site. So
So it's a different thing.
It's essentially a little bit, yes, you could get percolation information off the soil mapping, but it is slightly different. And then to answer your question, for the 150 acres, it's perceivable that within 150 acres, you should have ample room for a septic system. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further comments? Okay, I'll close the public hearing on that portion. And if any further discussion from the board? Okay, we have a motion and a second. If, Jim, you can call the roll on that.
Mr. Andrews?
Aye.
Mr. Lavoy?
Aye.
Ms. Collier?
Aye.
Mr. Moran?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Sorry, Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
That's unanimous.
Okay, thank you. All right, on to,
The second waiver,
how was that waiver? It's a waiver from SR816C, test pits.
yes, there is a requirement that each lot include test pits. We're asking for a waiver for lots 27.5 and 27.6, and these are the two lots that have existing septics on them already. So there's really no reason to test pit them, disturb the area when we already have septic systems on them already that were approved by the town and the state. That's the reason we're asking for the waiver.
And there's, no proposed improvements to those lots. It's adding
Correct. They're built.
lines on
Yes.
plans.
Any other questions from the board? So essentially, this is just the two lots that already have septic systems?
Correct.
Test pit, because they already have septic systems, okay. The other two lots aren't part of this particular waiver. Okay. Any comments from the public? I'll make that quick. I'll open it, close it. I'm just following the rules here. Okay, any further questions from the board? If not, can I have a motion to approve the waiver of SR816C test pits for lots, the potential lots 27.5 and 27.6?
This is Annie, so move.
This is Barbara, second.
Okay, I have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Okay, Jim, please call the roll.
Mr. Andrews?
Aye.
Mr. Lavoy?
Aye.
Ms. Collier?
Aye.
Mr. Moran?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We have a third waiver. Do you want to address that?
I know
Not in
nothing about a third
engineering.
waiver.
Okay. The applicant is, I'll just read this for you. It's on our standard form. As part of the application for a 4-lot subdivision, 27-3, I am requesting a waiver from the sections of the site plan or subdivision regulations as noted below. For the reasons set forth below, I believe that it is reasonable for the board to conclude that strict conformity with these particular provisions would pose an unnecessary hardship and that a waiver would not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the regulation. The reason for the request, it is from monies that have to be put down a deposit. The request is changing that from $5,000 to $1,000 on the NEPA funds. This is word for word from the applicant. All these site plans are approved and constructed. The only expense should be abutters notices. Okay. Do you have any comment on this, Jen?
These are not something I comment on.
I thought, okay. Jim, the administrative assistant, Mr. Doggett, I need him to comment on this because this is about bringing money in that covers the town's cost of what needs to be done through the application process. So if you have the information,
We
please.
only have one bill in so far, and that's the abutter That was $994.
Okay?
Point of order. Jim, you can't be heard. I don't know if you have a mic.
He does now.
Thank you.
Sorry, I kept it off. I didn't know if it might echo. Anyway, on the 23, they've deposited 5,000. So far, at least $994 has been spent. That was just a butter notices. There's still the public notice, any additional postage, registry fees. I mean, probably could bring it down to 2,500, but I would not, he's requesting that it go down to 1,000. And there's, just with the abutter notices, it wiped out that.
I make a motion that we can give him a little leeway, but I'd say we only drop it down to 3,000.
Okay?
I'll second that. This is Annie.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. We're going to,
Reduce it to 3,000 or reduce it by 3,000? I couldn't.
2 to 3,000.
yes.
Jim, did you say that the applicant already deposited this money in the account?
It's in the NEPR account, yes.
Okay.
I would be unable to.
So there's 5,000 sitting there, basically, that we've expensed 1,000 of it. There was 5,000.
Right.
Thank you.
So even though his request is down to 3, we can modify this to whatever we want.
That was kind of my question of, do we have the jurisdiction to modify this amount, or should the applicant come back and ask for a different amount to be expensed at a later time?
Well, I see
Not that I'm opposed to it. It may be premature.
Okay. Do we need any input from the applicant for this as best?
You have the applicant's representative.
I don't want to. I noticed the applicant trying to connect to audio.
Jim may,
So,
do you have to?
Okay, Tom.
Tom Lackborg, 125 Developments Builder. Historically, we've been able to do this when it's a minor site adjustment. Historically, you've requested to fill up the NEPR account at certain stages as you needed it. We just felt that at this point in time that, 5,000 seemed like a lot. And for the small amount of work, we've kind of sort of been through this once already, and we kind of know where we're going. So I was hoping that you'd take a look at that, and because we got bigger hurdles coming later. But we have no problem from a request from Jim to replenish the account as needed.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
all right. I like the motion on the table at 3, and if this gets approved and the applicant meets the conditions, they'll expeditiously, the money, any excess will be returned. So if there's no further discussion, Jim, could you call the roll?
Who seconded that?
Me? Me?
Mr. Marshall?
I did.
No, it was
I
me.
did. Annie.
Annie did.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I wasn't that time.
Mr. Andrews?
Aye.
Mr. Lavoy?
Aye.
Ms. Collier?
Aye.
Mr. Moran?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now on to the basic request.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Yes, please do.
Yes,
Ms. White.
this is Barbara. I believe with what we just voted on, I think you might need to make another vote saying that, that you give permission for the $2,000 to be refunded to Mr. McDonough, because I think he $1,000 is already there, and you need permission to release those other $2,000 from the funds and give it back to him, I believe.
Okay, thank you. Mr.
Mr.
Dahlia.
Chairman, that will have to be on the next NEPA manifest. Because the treasurer cannot release the funds without it being.
Okay, so the next NEPA manifest meeting, next meeting,
Right.
we will have the vote so the funds can be returned. The
Actually, you
excess.
just have to approve that manifest.
Oh, got it. You approve the manifest. Okay, got it. Did you hear that, Ms. White?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Okay, back to the basic request. We've gone through all the waivers and I think now I'll open up to the board for questions. And if any time, Ms. Reardon, you have something you want to add, please do. And I'm sorry for those on Zoom, I can't see if you raise your hand, so you'll have to just
I'm trying to keep as good a watch as I
see
can.
it. Okay,
Yeah.
you got other things to do, but. Okay, so to spur some discussion, I'm going to open it up to the public for any public comments on this time pertaining to this particular application. So again, please state your, pardon me?
Which is what? Can you even read it first, so we know what you're talking about?
Oh, it's the same one, the 4-lot subdivision. We're still on the initial, if anybody's confused, we're still on the initial 4-lot subdivision. What we did so far is essentially go through administrative work for any waivers or something like that. So now this will be a public hearing for any input from the public on their questions concerned pertaining to, as I read, the 4-lot subdivision off Puzzle Lane, so which is 4 lots, 2 have existing buildings on them, right off of Puzzle Lane. 1 is a small lot, at this time it's unbuildable, and then the 3rd lot is a large, approximately 150 plus acres. So, 164 is it? Okay. All right, I'm not gonna quibble. This writing gets a little bit small for my eyes. The total lot size at this time is 164 and some change. And then the 3 lots, where is it? I know you have them memorized. What are the acreages of the 4 proposed lots, please?
Not quite memorized, but I do have it written down. So the large lot ends up being 150.65 acres. One of them is one of the ones that's constructed on is 5.05. The other one is 6.04, and then 27.7, which is a smaller one, is 2.92.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Okay, please state your name. Okay.
Sergeant Woods. We're talking about septic systems, approval for these different lots. Well, the 150 acre lot, is that, how many buildings can be built on that? Will they all be using one system? And what would be, with in its totality, all the acreage, how many businesses could possibly be built on those lots? So those would be my...
I think I understand your question. You're asking, okay, there's going to be this 150 acre lot out there. How many buildings, how many businesses? The answer is we don't know. And at this point with this application, it's 1 lot. with nothing approved on it. The 150 acre lot, it's one lot with nothing approved. Go ahead, Jen.
How can you decide what size septic system lots might have? Because it goes by the amount of people that could possibly be using that septic system. So you're talking about that. Now, I don't know if they have possible businesses ready to go in and jump in there, but I'm worried that we could flood the whole area with many, many businesses. I can understand the small acreage lots, you probably can't, but that 150 acre lot, you could put quite a few businesses in there. Then they'd be coming in and saying, well, we need more septic space, or we need this, or we need that. That's my concern.
Thank you. Ms. Reardon.
So just to generally answer that question, before they could build anything, houses, commercial buildings, they would have to come back to the planning board and get further approval. If it's for one business, if it's for 5 businesses, that includes the septic systems, any future subdivision of the 150 acres, any buildings being built, they have to come back before the planning board.
Yeah. All this is a subdivision request, nothing more. So if this gets approved tonight, there is nothing at this time that could be built on there, and in the future, without going through Newton zoning ordinance, which is coming back here, and that's at the time when those issues of size of septic, of all that, of further subdivision, of all that, would have to come before the board and meet many different considerations.
To add some color, right now it's 164 acres, so it's no different today as it stands potentially tomorrow with an additional line on the drawings carving out 10 acres or 14 acres for this subdivision.
I was just going to say Ms. Jeffries on Zoom had her hand up.
Okay, I'm going to go to her, and then I'll come back to you, sir. Ms. Jeffries, if you'd like to speak. I see you're muted.
All right, so I am an abutter, have been following this for a while. The last time that this was brought up, all of the houses on Ridgewood Road in Plastow were notified. So I was confused when they talked about the Plastow portion, because I thought that the new plans did not include that wedge shape that is in Plastow that was included last time. This time only the 3 houses that are directly on the large lot were notified. And I'm just confused, are we not including the Plastow portion? Does Plastow have to make a comment whether or not their lot is used, or is it just because the boundary is used?
I'll try to answer that from our earlier discussion. I can't answer to the notification. That's where the discussion was, where Plastow Planning Board would have to either approve or comment, in some way weigh in to say whether they require anything from the applicant or not. And that's going to be one of our conditions if this was to be approved.
Okay, so if that wedged portion, it's kind of like pie shape that was abutting the Newton portion the last time, if that's included, then there were a lot more notifications that needed to happen.
So the portion that goes into Plastow of this lot, those abutters should have been notified. I don't check abutter notices, but based on this application, they should have been notified.
All right, it was my understanding that because we weren't, that I thought that pie-shaped portion was not being included. But in the earlier conversation, clearly it is.
Okay, thank you. We'll have to look into that. I know I'm looking at the abutter list, and I'm seeing a lot of Plastow addresses, but
Is she talking about map 71, lot 10, 11, and 12?
I think she's talking about in the upper corner, it's these lots.
Yep.
and I think this was what I believe the applicant may have used to notify abutters.
Correct. We did notify the abutters in Plastow.
No, only 3 properties were notified. All of the other ones from from 14 down to 2 Ridgewood were not notified.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 were not notified. 6, 18, and 20 were.
Okay. Go ahead, Jim.
Oh, if you have the abutters list there, you will notice that there were a number of homeowners associations.
Mm-hmm.
That's different. That's property owned by the association, not property owned by individuals. And there were several, 6, 7, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 14 who were not notified, who were previously notified because that wedge of Plastow abuts our property. The other property is collective that belongs to the homeowners association, but that's not the same as the property that abuts mine and my neighbors.
Okay, thank you.
Not a properly noticed meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Is this a certified homeowners list from the town of Plastow?
Where
They
is
would,
the-
they would have to be certified notifications.
From the town of,
It would be issued from Newton because it was a application in Newton, even if it's someone who lives in Plastow.
Okay.
In the past, we have been noticed. We were not noticed for this meeting.
Okay, thank you. Can you,
I
I'm
don't
gonna have to,
understand this because I'm on the ZBA in Plastow, and this was not a properly noticed meeting, if that Plastow chunk is
all
included.
right. Thank you, Ms. Jeffries. Okay.
It was buried.
Okay, Barb, thank you. And Jim, can you mute the rest of the folks on there now, please? Okay, we got an issue.
So there are a couple of options. Technically, it is on the applicant to supply the abutter list. It is not actually on the town. If there needs to be verification that the applications were, or the notifications were sent out, you can do that. If you choose to do that, you should continue the public hearing, certainly to the next meeting. And you could include a motion that anyone who was not properly notified receive proper notification. Obviously, verifying that list is also important because they may have been notified and maybe no one was home to sign it that day. That's possible. Those are basically the 2 options. Or you can choose to move forward. That leaves you open to, you possibly did not have a properly notified meeting.
I'm not comfortable with moving forward with what seems like a very good possibility that this wasn't appropriately notified.
But since you have accepted jurisdiction, that is fully the purview of the planning board, whether you want to continue the public hearing to the next meeting or farther.
This is Annie. I'd like to make a motion to continue this to the next meeting. Will there be enough time for the notifications between now and the next meeting?
Okay, thank you, Annie.
I'll just say, as the applicant, we agree with that, just to make sure that we have
Okay.
all our i's dotted and our t's crossed. We do think we notified correctly, but we'll double check and notify for the next meeting.
Okay, next meeting, okay.
Like, I would suggest, because you do have a lot of people here and on Zoom, that you continue to hear from anybody that you want to hear from tonight,
Okay,
and then continue it, if that's the route the board is going.
okay, and there's no issues with that, even though
Nope.
it has been fully, okay. All right, Annie, can you hold off on your motion?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Knowing that this meeting is going to be, this hearing will be continued to the next meeting, I will continue to open up for public comment, particularly if you can't attend the next meeting. I see Mr. Hamill standing.
Roger Hamill. I've got a question. In September, when you approved this subdivision that has now expired, there were conditions, and I would like to have those conditions reviewed so that they're fresh in people's minds before they...
I have those up if you'd like me to read them.
Sure, I know I have the notice of a decision here in front of me, but please do.
Sure, so this is dated September 22nd, 2020, and the notice is that, number 1, all waivers and variances must be listed on the first recorded page. 2, approval of the Plastow Planning Board. 3, signature blocks for both Newton and Plastow Planning Boards. 4, must include all professional signatures and stamps. 5, legal protections for the town of Newton and liability waivers must be in place per subdivision regulations 8.2.4. I'm not going to read the whole subdivision regulations. And the last one is 6, set the bounds.
Okay.
Set bounds.
And some of your recommendations, just because this is being discussed, for this one was also a recordable Mylar.
Correct.
Okay. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any further comments from the public? Okay, thank you. I'll close the public hearing portion of it. Annie, your motion, please, for continuance.
I'd like to move to continue this to the next meeting to give time for proper verification and/or notification of all butters.
Okay,
This is Barbara, I second.
okay. Before I vote on that, does that give enough time for legal abutter notification?
Only if I have them like first thing tomorrow, because in order to send certifieds, they have to go out 10 days before. The next meeting is 13 days from tonight. That gives 3 days for the abutter labels to get to this office, for me to prep it and get them in the mail.
Okay.
Is the planning board ready for that kind of hours?
And are you ready for, if it doesn't get done, there'll be another continuance? And if you're the only one on the agenda, where? Okay, all right. If you have to re-notify and we can't meet that, then we'll just have to continue from 2 weeks from now. Okay? I know,
I will do my best.
billable hours.
Just can't guarantee you.
Yes, okay. Any further discussion from the board? Okay, we have a motion and a second, and Jim, please.
Who seconded?
Barbara.
I did, Barbara.
Thank you. Mr. Andrews?
Aye.
Mr. Lavoy?
Aye.
Ms. Collier?
Aye.
Mr. Moran?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Mr. Marchand?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all very much, and we'll see you hopefully next 2 weeks.
Okay. Thank you. And I will... Yeah, we have other hearings, so there can't be any noise or discussion.
It's also on the town website as well, under planning board. It's on August 25th at 7 o'clock here. 25th. 2 Tuesdays from today.
Okay.
Meeting is-
I'm sorry. It's the 24th, not the 26th. Misspoke.
All right, and that public hearing is closed, and I'm trying to,
Not closed, but it's continued.
what's that?
It's not closed, it's continued.
Continue. At 8:02, thank you. And the next meeting is on the 24th. All right. Thank you, sir. You can leave, yes, if you like. Okay, we'll move on with, you ready?
Yeah, just, until people move out, it's gonna be hard to hear anything.
There's the hearing after this one is for a condominium conversion.
Yes.
Yes, that's the Puzzle Lane one, is a condominium conversion. But the one we have next... Yes, but we're not onto that right now. That'll be the fourth item on tonight's agenda. So, if I could ask everyone to please be quiet or quietly leave, I'm going to open up. The next applicant is Glenn Schroeder and Kenneth and Judy Hamilton of Newton, New Hampshire. Request a hearing for a lot line adjustment between their properties at 12 and 13 Nordic Lane, Newton, New Hampshire. The properties are referenced as tax map 9, block 3, lots 15-6 and 15-7. And,
It's the Wi-Fi password if you need it.
oh, great, okay. And I'm gonna, if I may, I like the process, so I'm gonna have the circuit rider speak first on the completeness of the application, and once we can take jurisdiction, then we'll move right on to it. Thank you.
Sure. So this is a lot line adjustment to correct an encroachment issue between 12 and 13 Nordic Wood Lane. It does appear to qualify as a minor lot line adjustment as they are not creating any new buildable lots. It is a small adjustment to one of the lot lines. Because of that, actually no public hearing is required under Newton's regulations and state law. They did ask for a couple of waivers for topographic contours, wetlands, and soils mapping. Given the small nature of the application, it does appear that those are reasonable waivers to grant, and also because of that, it does appear that the application is complete.
Okay. Any comments from the board before we accept jurisdiction?
Well, this
As
is Annie.
this,
This is Annie. I have a question.
Okay.
I'm not really sure when Jen's saying that it's not really requiring approval, so would we?
no, it requires approval, does not require a public hearing.
Oh, okay, okay.
So the,
Thank you for that clarification.
right, okay. So the motion, I would like to accept jurisdiction, and that basically at the same time, we're saying this is a minor lot line adjustment, which is, falls under the minor site plan.
Correct.
So the wording on that, we have to
This is
do it.
Annie. I'll make a motion. We accept jurisdiction as a minor site plan.
This is Barbara, I'll second that.
Good enough? Okay. Have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Jim, call the roll, please.
Mr. Andrews,
Aye.
Mr. Lavoy,
Aye.
Ms. Collier,
Aye.
Mr. Moran,
Aye.
Ms. White,
Aye.
Mr. Marchand.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And now, Mr.
Good afternoon, Glenn Schroeder, Nordic Wood Lane.
Mr. Schroeder.
I live on 12 Nordic Wood Lane.
Ah, okay.
So if you look at the lot line adjustment plan that I gave to Mr. Doggett, I'm the owner of 12 Nordic Lane. I face north onto the cul-de-sac, and my neighbor Ken and Judy Hamilton over here are on 13. And so again, this is just a minor lot line adjustment. There was, just a minor encroachment, which was, it was just an honest mistake. So we're just trying to simply rectify that amicably as neighbors. That's it.
Okay. Jen, any comments? I know that the three waivers.
Three waivers.
Is there something in writing a little bit better? Here it is. Thought I'd seen it, okay. So the waiver to the certain subdivision regulations, 815D, existing grades, 815G, wetland delineation, and 815K, high-intensity soil survey mapping. Okay, I think those are justifiable waivers. Any comment, Jen?
No, given that they're literally just moving a lot line, nothing on the plan
Okay.
that's changing.
Any input from the board on these?
No.
Mr. Chair, this is Barbara. I'll make a motion that we grant the requested waivers.
Okay, and since these are minor, I'm going to take them all three at once. I think that'll be okay.
I'll second that. This is Annie.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Okay. Jim, call the roll, please.
Mr. Andrews,
Aye.
Mr. Lavoy,
Aye.
Ms. Collier,
Aye.
Mr. Moran,
Aye.
Ms. White,
Aye.
Mr. Marshall.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Okay, thank you. Now, I know there's not usually additions put on something as simple as this, but I'm going to bring it up for discussion. And it's that we've had some issues in the past on deeds getting recorded when we have essentially new pieces of land created, which drives the tax assessor bonkers. So, first to Jen, is there any issues that you can think of from the RSAs that would prohibit us from, say, requiring deeds to be filed within a year or
You can have,
months? Or 6 months?
you can have a time frame. It does need to be recorded, but it is not official as far as the lot line adjustment until it is recorded. So you can certainly have a recording condition.
Mike, if I may, I think when we talked about this before, there is, from what Jim had informed us about, that is already a statute that they're supposed to do it within a year, but not everybody does it. So I was thinking the same thing where you're going with this, is that we should put on the statute, was what I was thinking about, if we could do it, that the new titles be done within that year period. If not, then they will, those lines will automatically be redrawn to where they sit right now. That's what I wanted to put in place.
Do you know the RSA offhand?
I don't know the reference offhand. I do know the
There is an RSA, I believe I've read it
context.
recently.
It's not that it would revert back. It would, this lot line adjustment would have never
Right.
happened.
But I want to put that into play to where it'll automatically revert back to the original line plans if they're not done within that year period.
We have a recommendation.
In talking with the assessor, and I did mention this to one of our councils, this becomes a condition precedent. It has a 6-month limit like everything else. If it's not done within 6 months, the board actually has to make a vote to withdraw its support, rescind its decision. That it just can't, unlike a plan that lapses that hasn't been recorded,
Right.
this has to be recorded, and it's a catch-22. The plan has to be recorded before the deed can be drafted, technically. They can be done contemporaneously, but the excuse that lawyers give is, oh, we're not going to write the deed until the plan has been recorded because the deed has to list the points according to the plan.
They could be filed at the same time, but
I keep a list of things that are waiting and, that have 6-month expiration dates on them.
Right.
This would go on that list, and if deeds are not delivered to the office within 6 months, you then are informed that it has expired, that the notice of decision has expired, and therefore is at the pleasure of the board to withdraw. I'll have to find out the exact verbiage to withdraw the plan. That then gets notified to Rockingham, and that's the only way Rockingham can pull the plan.
okay. So instead of getting into all that mess, how about we have as a condition that the new deed be filed within 6 months?
Within 6 months, deliver recorded deeds to the planning board office. And then then it becomes planning board office's responsibility to get them to the assessor.
Okay. 6 months? Sounds like it's there anyway. Part of it putting on the notice of decision is you see it, and it tends to get done then.
So I can tell you, we came this far, and we're both intent on moving forward with it. So we're not going to let this go
I have no
6
doubt with
months.
that.
We'll get this done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ken Hamilton, the other party here. We had a conversation, just for clarification. I gave the town $450 to cover administrative costs for this adjustment. I thought Jimmy said that the town now files a deed with the registry because a lot of times homeowners forgot and it just went undone.
That was before I spoke to council and found out that the town cannot record your deeds.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, could you ask people to use the microphone, please?
Okay. He had a question about the town recording the deed, and we've been notified from legal counsel that is not the town's responsibility to be recording deeds.
I actually had another question. I don't know when I should jump in with it, though. So speaking with Mr. Doggett, there were a few administrative issues that were found on the plan, and I was under the impression that approval would be conditional on getting those resolved as well. Is that something that
Yeah,
we're gonna
I
do?
have those written somewhere, but do you have them?
Actually, yes, I gave Mr. Schroeder.
Okay. I know I had some issues like.
They were very minor, like Kenneth G. didn't have Junior listed in the name. There was the locus was in the wrong spot. It needed to get moved over. Very minor things of that sort.
There are administrative errors that need to be corrected,
All right.
so.
But there was one that was more important to me, and maybe this is a matter that I have to take up after this hearing with the selectmen. Apparently in the assessor's map, my lot is listed at 68,367 square feet, which is what you'll see on this plan. However, the assessor's map says that's 2.08 acres. Now, an acre is 43,560 feet. So for that to be 2.08 acres, my lot would have to be 90,604 square feet, which it's not. So I've been paying taxes on land more than half an acre than I actually have right now.
Okay. My suggestion, Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, from my personal experience, is once you have a plan that's got that surveyor stamp on it and the deeds, then you'd go to the town, and essentially you'd probably have to go through the appeal process to get that corrected.
Okay.
We see that a lot.
That doesn't impact any
No, there's
approval.
nothing we can do other than when you have an approved plan from the planning board and it's signed, and that is what is now official.
Okay, thank you.
And that should give it to you. Okay. Any further discussion? Can I open up to the public? Doesn't seem like there's too much. This is a,
You don't have to have a public
that's
hearing,
right.
it's up to
Good.
you.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
all right, thank you. I need a motion, please, to approve. Did she put on a motion yet? I just want to have the condition of,
There are three.
there are three.
Who made the motion?
Probably Annie. Did you
I'll make
the
a
motion,
motion that upon the conditions set forth, correcting the paperwork that needs to be done, and with the 6-month set in place, that we approve this.
Okay. What was the third?
Set bounds.
Oh, and set bounds. You need set bounds. And you get the, so set bounds, okay.
Yep,
Does that work for your motion?
yep.
Okay. Do we have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Jim, call the roll, please.
Mr. Andrews?
Aye.
Mr. Lavoy?
Aye.
Ms. Collier?
Aye.
Mr. Moran?
Aye.
Ms. White?
You muted, Barbara.
Aye, sorry.
Get to that, Todd.
And Mr. Marchand?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Both of you, all 4 of you, I think.
Thanks for coming tonight. Take care. Have a good night.
Okay. Excuse me. Next item on the agenda, 125 Development, New Hampshire Corp., Plastow, New Hampshire, Mass. Why is it always written that way? Request I guess you're both in New Hampshire and Mass, I don't know. Request a public hearing for a 6-unit condominium conversion off Puzzle Lane in Newton, New Hampshire. The property is referenced as tax map 14, block 1, lot 27-4. And I'll hand it over to Ms. Reardon first on completeness of the application. What?
Sure. So a little bit different than your previous applications in that the requirements for a condominium conversion, so they're seeking to convert an existing piece of property into 6 condominium units. So it is a form of subdivision, but it is a subdivision of property, not land. Falls under zoning ordinance 33, which is your condominium conversion requirements. The application does appear incomplete. There are some minor items with a few things that I think the board needs to consider. One of them is a complete set of floor plans. There is some dimensional information provided for the 4 buildings that are involved in this condominium conversion. There are 3 smaller buildings and then 1 larger building that is slated to be subdivided into 3 condo units. There are only dimensions offered, and with the larger building, the middle section has not yet been constructed, although the foundation is existing. The next one being utilities. Some of the utilities are shown on the plan, but things including the water connections are actually not shown, so where do the water pipes go? Water supply demand is actually one of your requirements, that if there is any well, and there are a few wells on the site to service the different buildings, has a demand of greater than 400 gallons per day, there has to be a protective well radius that should be shown on the condo plan. And it may not be the case that any of these buildings are using more than 400 gallons, but if they are, that could be noted, or the radiuses should be shown. Verification that the septic systems have all been approved. That is easily done by just noting the septic system permit numbers that are already existing. All of these buildings have approved septic systems. The final thing is that with the largest building, the off-street parking that was approved when the site plan for phase 2 was approved is actually not shown on the plan. Simply showing that would show that there is actually adequate off-site parking for the entire parcel, but it's simply not part of this plan set. I will say, I just wanted to note that waivers can't, other than fees, waivers can't be requested from this kind of application because it's in zoning. So they have to meet all of the conditions to get a condo approval for the planning board to be able to grant their approval of that. The only way to seek relief is actually because it's under the planning board's jurisdiction. You can only seek relief from Superior Court. It does not go to the zoning board. So that's, it's just, this is a sort of a novel ordinance. You guys don't see this very often, so I just wanted to point that out.
Okay.
Would you like me to go through the rest, or do you want to hold off?
It applies to the completeness of the application, but at this time, I'd like to just stick with that.
It does, in that condominium docs do need to be supplied for review. I know some new ones were supplied this afternoon with some changes. I have not had a chance to review them, but I do recommend any condition of approval be that you have town council ensure the requirements of its zoning ordinance 33D and E are met. It's basically assuming responsibility of things like water and septic facilities, the driveway are clearly established. That's something you would need legal counsel to at least review. And I believe Jim may have already notified your legal counsel of that coming, but.
Yes, we have one reply from legal counsel. Condominium conversion. Yes.
I was just going to say, we received a document this evening. I'll be sending it to council on Thursday to see if that language meets the requirements.
Okay. My view at this time is this is not a completed application. Are you speaking on behalf of the applicant, or? Oh, there you go.
Stephen Casey. All of these requirements, it would be no problem to address. Why it wasn't in the first place was that I just assumed that the property was being condominiumized. The buildings were incidental to the property. So there was rudimentary floor plans shown. But if any of these things need to be done, it's not a, if you want to have it as a condition for approval, it would be no problem to put these on.
Well, I'm not, right now, I would rather have a complete application than, these are too many for me to be suggesting they would all be conditions of approval. Have you gotten the review letter from Ms. Rowden? And are you...
I received it today.
Okay. Do you think you have enough information to know what the ordinance is asking to have this as a complete application?
I do.
Okay. Is there anything that you need to add, or Jen?
No, Mr. Casey knows if he has any questions, he knows my number.
I do.
Okay. Then at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to continue this.
I'll make a...
Wait a minute, is there a legal thing, or? Probably.
There is one waiver request that I would ask the board to entertain just before they continue.
Okay. Can we entertain that prior?
Because you haven't accepted
Yeah,
jurisdiction,
we're
you
not
can't.
jurisdiction yet.
Oh, okay. Well, it has to do with fees, not with anything. You all have in front of you a waiver request.
Yeah.
You certainly can acknowledge you have the waiver request to reduce the fees.
I'll acknowledge it, but
Okay.
not tonight. So a motion to continue this.
This is Annie. I'd like to move that we continue this application
Okay.
to our next meeting.
This is Barbara, I'll second.
Go ahead.
I just want something clarified, like, you're saying floor plans, right? That you're looking to have a floor plan for every single unit, you know, that's like it's a shuffleboard, it keeps moving, right? We build and,
Well-
we close and build units. We're not splitting a building, where it's like each building is in a separate building, so we're not condoizing the units in the building. We're just separating the buildings. So technically, we're drawing a line. That's what we're trying to do. So,
Right.
So what I'm saying is, everything you're asking for is already in the building department, but it keeps, as you know, Sunny's is going through their expansion right now. 9B, which is the middle part of the building, it's almost completed. We're onto the roof next week. So we're closing out probably within the next 60 days, that whole project. So what I'm saying is that to give you a floor plan to something that it's a big warehouse right now, and I don't know where it's gonna end up. How do I give you a floor plan other than just an empty building?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
So typically with a floor plan of this detail, understanding it is a big warehouse, things are shifting.
Right.
Where's the egress? Where are the bathrooms that are not going to be?
Right.
Some basic information so you know where the unit walls are, especially on that bigger building that does have 3 units.
Right.
What are the basic elements of the building? And really the intent of why the floor plans in a condominium is so that you're not going to then sort of re-subdivide one of those units into having multiple condos. That's one of the reasons for having the floor plan. So
Okay, I understand that, all right? So one building in like 9A, which Turner's occupying right now, they're coming in front of you guys here to do a big build out shortly. And so I'm not gonna be able to provide anything for them till, they're gonna start in a month from now. So if I give you what originally the buildings as I built them, obviously we have all the egress, we have the, but I don't have, there was never any office or any floor plan for those buildings, so I'm gonna leave those out, but I can give you the egress doors, obviously we can give you the weld points and all the, water, sewer and all the, like I said, everything is up and running there in this whole part where we're talking about in 27-4. Just that the center part is not completed, it changes no septic and no water and well, everything's still already there, so I'm gonna provide as much as I can, but I won't be able to give, Turner Motorsports I won't be able to do because it's gonna be under construction, and I'll just give you the envelope building. So
What I look at is, think about it as health and safety.
yeah, fair.
The egress points, the bathroom, the stuff that the fire chief would probably want to know.
Right.
So those kind of things. And with Sunny's,
it's an 800-page.
Best guess of, okay, this is where they're going, but like Ms. Reardon said,
because
the basics, like, okay, here's the office, here's the bathroom, here's the shop.
Point address, I get it. I'll get you those items like that. And no need to give you a Sunny set again. 800 pages, you guys.
Oh, no.
No, that's what I'm saying. So we'll give you something that gives you life and safety. All right, fair?
Go ahead.
Both Sunny's and Turner supplied floor plans with their applications for change of use.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
So they should have those.
We do, but they're part of a plan set. There's, like which you guys have already seen.
Okay.
Parts
Can
of-
we
you haven't seen the
pull out
construction
that?
set.
Do you have an easy way to pull out those without printing out this
I'll
whole
give you as
thing?
much as I can. How's that?
Okay,
That makes
I
sense.
just don't want to have to send you back again
Right.
saying
I know that.
not enough.
That's why I'm trying to figure this out, because I got to do it. So, you know what I'm saying? I want to come in and just
Be a little more precise if you can, but think health and safety and.
But again, just take under consideration that 2 buildings are moving targets right now. So, all right. Thank you.
Okay. Did you have anything to add to that?
just because you have an accepted jurisdiction, you do have to have the applicant's okay for the continuance.
Okay. We need your okay to continue this because we have not accepted jurisdiction yet.
Would you please continue?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I believe we have a motion and a second. Is that correct?
Yes.
Any further discussion? Okay, Jim, call the roll, please.
And by the way, that's to July 24th.
August 24th.
Sorry, August. Okay, it's 8:30, huh? Mr. Andrews,
Aye.
Mr. Lavoy,
Aye.
Ms. Collier,
Aye.
Mr. Moran,
Aye.
Ms. White,
Aye.
Mr. Marchand.
Aye.
That is unanimous.
Okay.
Oh, I want to let you know, you have to remember, the motion has to give the date, because if you don't state where, when, and the time and the date,
Okay.
then the board has to renotice.
That's why I have you put those things down.
Yeah, well, as long as you get the, get the right
Okay.
month.
All right. Well, that's been continued. So that's done. Okay, well, now we're on to board business and correspondence. And can I have a motion to accept the minutes of our last meeting, July 27, please?
This is Annie, so moved.
This is Barbara, second.
Hey, any discussion, corrections? Jim, call the roll, please.
Mr. Andrews.
Aye.
Ms. Collier.
Aye.
Mr. Marchand.
Aye.
Ms. White.
Aye.
Mr. Lavoy.
Aye.
Mr. Moran.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you, everybody, for attending. We're going to continue our business here, but I appreciate showing up. Okay, the next one is a NEPA manifest for a total of $1,602.24. Can I have a motion to approve?
This is Barbara,
Annie.
so.
Oh, go ahead, Barbara.
Yep.
Okay, we
I
got
move to
Barbara
approve. Thanks.
and Annie.
This is Annie, second.
It's like the Zoomies are the ones that are all into,
Just want to explain to people, another bill that came in yesterday,
oh, that's why this is 155 more than you were,
than the one that you received via
before.
email.
Oh,
Sumner Coleman, 125 development for the, legal review, okay.
Legal review.
Okay, motion and a second, no further discussion. Jim, call the roll, please.
Mr. Andrews,
Aye.
Ms. Collier,
Aye.
Mr. Marchand,
Aye.
Ms. White,
Aye.
Mr. Lavoy,
aye.
Mr. Moran.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Okay, and
Mr. Chair, before we adjourn, that list of recordings that are needed that Jim has been keeping, and that apparently Andrea is very upset because some of them haven't been recorded, how are we going to address those?
I have no idea what you're talking about, sorry.
Okay, Jim said that he's keeping a running list of approvals that we've done that need to be recorded within 6 months. And apparently Andrea is very upset because some haven't been recorded. So what do we do with that list? I know that one of the things we talked about earlier this evening was to rescind that approval if it hasn't been recorded after 6 months. Should we have a process for that?
I believe there is a process, but I'll let Mr. Doggett.
It's not, are you referring to just on the lot line adjustments? I keep a short handwritten list just saying, well, you've seen it, of what we've completed, the date it was completed, and then when paperwork comes in that's required, like I just received some from Mr. Attorney Valhouli that was required for the Turner Group. I go and I put a little tick mark next to it. On the lot line adjustments, usually we record it and then it sort of gets thrown to the assessing office.
What are we recording? When you say we record it?
On a lot line adjustment, we have to record the plan.
Plan.
That falls on the planning boards.
Okay. We do not record the deed.
We do not record the deeds.
Okay.
because we do not have liabilities for errors and omissions on deeds.
Okay.
So we can't record deeds. We record the lot line adjustment. I just recently was made aware, well, within the past 3 or 4 months, that a lot line adjustment that took place in 2017, we recorded the lot line adjustment. No deeds have ever been recorded.
Okay. So there's 2 questions that I have. The short term is, when that happens, does that fall under the RSA that we were talking about earlier, that it's been a year, poof, as a possibility?
The RSA allows the planning board to pull the lot line adjustment if I'm still waiting for the assessor to give me the exact language from the RSAs.
Okay.
The way she explained it, if it's not done within a year, the planning board can make its motion, send notice to Registry of Deeds, the plan gets literally pulled out of the file, and it no longer exists.
What happens if we don't make that motion?
Then it sits there, and and this is the situation with one of those pieces of property is for sale.
So they're not going to get title insurance?
Exactly. They're not going to be able to get clear title because there's a recorded redistribution or change of lot line.
So my second question then is, and I can only speak for you because, you know, that, I think 2017 was somebody else. Do we have a process that keeps track of those things now, that when we got to getting close to the year, I would recommend that possibly the planning board send a letter to the original applicants and say, if a deed is not filed within X, this plan is revoked? Because that's the only time we have any.
We haven't put that in the letter. Tonight was the first time that was made a condition of approval.
Right, but it'll still require.
The process as it sits now is my list says that was done. I then check with the assessor, and the assessor notifies me as soon as the deeds, or she has changed the assessment cards.
I have a question. Yeah. Do we care? Like, the applicant doesn't follow the RSA?
In a sense, we don't, other than we have teeth under the RSA to do something about it. I would rather have this be the assessor's responsibility.
Right. Mr. Chair, may I ask a question?
Go ahead, Barbara.
This is Barbara. Okay. I can understand the concern on the part of assessing, but since deeds are not under the purview of the planning board, why isn't the assessor taking care of contacting those people if she needs a deed for those?
Good question.
How is it handled in other towns?
Yeah.
Isn't this
I brought this up a couple of months ago, that the assessor asked us if we would do this because she has no authority to demand deeds. Once you get past the approval of the planning board, it's
that's kind of my statement. And
Right.
Barbara mentioned it as well. I don't think it's like me pulling a building permit and not building my building, and then 5 years from now trying to build it, and then the town comes back to me and says, well, you didn't have a building permit.
Yeah,
You should reapply.
It sounds like the exact same situation. I feel like we should just apply that rule here.
I'd have to pull the minutes. When the assessor first brought this to my attention, she asked if I'd put it in front of the board. And this was the first lot line adjustment.
So I think as a change in
process,
and maybe get it in writing eventually, but on those standard conditions, so for a lot line adjustment, we'll have what we did tonight, that deeds will be filed. since you're keeping, well, you're not going to be notified if a deed has been filed, are you?
Excuse me?
You're not going to get notified by the county when they file a deed, so there's no way that, and I don't want to put it on this board that you have to start reaching out and, researching at a year.
No, like any other condition precedent, they have to bring notice to me for me to go to my stack of notices of decision and go, yeah, done.
Okay. So I think by having it as a condition precedent, we've taken care of it.
Right.
What do you
Okay,
think
good.
about that, Annie?
I think that's good. I just wanted to make sure that we had a way that we're doing it and that we kind of formalized the process so that we help to protect future property owners and help out some other departments in the town where we can.
Are we just going to remember that condition for every lot line adjustment, though?
Well, if it's on the notice of decision, then that falls under.
That will become one of the boilerplate items.
Okay.
Like set the bounds.
Yep, perfect.
Okay. That will be on every single lot line. I have templates for each different type of public hearing that we can have.
So if they don't, 6 months goes by and you haven't got a deed, what's the process?
I will bring it to the board's attention. Actually, I'll bring it to the chair's attention. Say, this is, this notice of decision has expired because the conditions were not met. Therefore, on the next agenda, we'll put the Lavoie Moran lot line adjustment on there. I just had to call out names.
Is there a way to bring the code enforcement officer in before we go through that whole?
No.
That's now my next question. If I file my deed, I don't notify you, then we vote to rescind our decision. Do we have the authority to rescind the decision?
Well, that's why the notice of decision says they will notify.
Yeah, they have to deliver copies of the recorded deeds to the planning board office.
Yeah. So then we know. That
actually covers
closes
two
the loop.
things. That covers, we now have a copy in the planning board office, should something happen with that. And the first thing that happens is those things go through the copier, the assessing office gets a copy, and it will actually save the town because the town has to pay for the assessor to download those deeds. It's not much. I think it's like $40 per deed.
Okay. Jen, do you have something?
This is just a process suggestion, but before you would go to revoke something, the Registry of Deeds does allow you to look up deeds to see if they are there fairly quickly and easily. I'm assuming you are not
They don't
going
charge
to-
you for that.
They do not charge you for that, just as a double check.
Yeah. So that would be a good thing I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible for your office. Notice of decision says what they have to do, get you a deed.
Right.
If it's timing out, part of your process then would be, before you notify me, get on the computer, go to the county courthouse, see if
However,
there's a deed.
they then have not actually met the condition. The condition isn't that they record the deed. The condition is that they deliver a recorded.
My personal view, I don't want to go through the planning board process of revoking something if I know they've filed it,
Yes.
and they just haven't gotten a copy to the planning board office. That can be, I would think, an easy letter, phone call, something to say, get a copy down here, or you are on next meeting's agenda to have this revoked.
Right, if we're gonna do this, then we need to do it right and make sure it's taken care of properly, because we don't want to end up backtracking and having a rehash over all this stuff.
Yeah, does that sound good for what
Yeah,
you can do?
that works. I just don't want it to become like setting the bounds where occasionally I get monument documentation, and then I go, okay, I wonder if these people ever did anything.
It's expensive to do that.
Yeah.
I realize that, but it
That's
is
why
a
it doesn't
requirement. Because heaven forbid you come back before us and you get a survey that says BNF, 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 all the way around a parcel for bounds not found.
Yeah. Well, that's another, there should be ways that that gets checked, and then if it's not done, when does the code enforcement get involved?
There is, some towns have a certificate of monumentation as a standard form.
Okay.
You,
Maybe we'll
you,
add
do,
that.
you don't specifically, but you can do that.
Can we do that just by adding it in our boilerplate condition?
You could, I would recommend you put it in your regulations specifically.
Put that on the list, please. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I have one more question.
Okay, Barbara.
Do we as a board, can we as a board give Jim permission to contact those people that the assessor was talking about then? Just let him do that for her if it doesn't, this time, if it doesn't take too much time?
Is the people who they haven't got a deed, first thing, can you check to see if there was a deed filed?
There isn't. The assessor is still grumbling at me about that.
Oh, so she's gone on to the county courthouse and seen that they never
Yeah, for the
did file it.
2017, yes.
Oh, so we know there's not a deed filed.
Yeah. She keeps a list also, because remember, the notices of decision go from here. She gets a copy. She keeps a list of deeds that she needs.
Okay.
That's how come she knows that it was one up on 108. She has said that the ones that have been done recently, all of those deeds are in.
Okay. Well, it sounds like this one, 2017 is going to take care of itself because they get the land for sale, and I can't imagine that it would go through with not a current deed.
Right.
These days, who knows?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, never say never.
All right. So moving forward, it sounds like we have a plan or a process. Okay.
Do we need to do anything though with that 2017? Do we need to do anything with that 2017 issue?
Legally, we can't, because it was not a condition.
Got it.
That they supply us with deeds. So it now becomes a civil issue. I don't believe that the town has any liability because that was more than 2 years ago.
Where does that fall into the RSA that says if a deed is not filed within a year, we can rescind it?
Yes, however, it's beyond our jurisdiction because it's there's a 2-year maximum statute of limitations.
Really? God, it's not like we murdered somebody. Okay, good. I think we've talked about this enough.
Yeah.
Good?
Good.
All right. That's it for tonight. I'm going to close this public meeting at 8:49.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, ladies.